It's a few days later than planned, but today we're going to talk about referees and the quality of refereeing within the Premier League. As you can see, I'm a gooner, but I'm not going to discuss the game against Brighton as heavily as most videos out there have. Instead, we're going to talk about what can be done to improve refereeing, what needs to happen within the Premier League for refereeing, because as it stands right now, the amount of poor decisions that happen by referees is inexcusable. These are £1 million worthy games with prizes that exceed multi-millions of pounds, and they're being decided by stupidity and errors. I do believe bias exists. I want to put it out there, I don't think referees are necessarily corrupt, but they aren't good enough. And as they say, in any other walk of life, if you consistently fail at your job and make mistakes, you will get sacked. Whether it be a manager losing football games, a player would get fined, or even sold if they're not good enough for the club and performing to a good enough standard. If you're in your job in everyday life, you would get disciplined and eventually sacked. Referees need to have this. It's the only job in the world that no matter what, you are protected and you can continue doing poorly and keep getting the top roles. All of this pins down to, in my opinion, training. Referees who make mistakes should be given disciplinaries, put on extra training courses. They need to train new referees to come through the ranks. There are a lot of young referees in the Championship. These need to be fast-tracked and trained up to be able to referee a Premier League game. And then we'd have an influx of new referees. Get the old ones or the poor ones, demote them to the Championship, demote them to the lower leagues, because the big names, you think Michael Oliver, etc., aren't good enough at this standard at the moment. If you bring in performance-related incentives, then they would then increase. Because at the moment, what's happened is a lot of the referees are just downright incompetent. I wanted to take a few days to discuss this because I was so emotionally drained after that Brighton game. I think if you take away any tribalism that people may have, so whether you're a United fan or you're a Spurs fan or whatever, categorically, it was the wrong decision. Because you either had to send Rice off, but then send Veltman off for kicking Rice, because within the laws of the game, as they keep saying, kicking someone off the ball when you're not even looking at the ball, that's violent conduct, so then he should be sent off. The other reason or excuse is you should have had a chat with both players, said, look, don't do it again, stop messing about, move on with the game. Similarly to the game before when McGinn smacked the ball at Saliba, so White smacked the ball at McGinn. You've got on with the game, enough said. Good moments, we move. This is just one of many. Last year, Liverpool had a goal, famously disallowed when Luis Diaz was onside against Spurs. That's another one where good process came into it. VAR needs more powers, firstly. So at the moment, it's a case of VAR can't stop it in the next phase of play, or VAR can't intervene in second yellow card decisions. That's rubbish. That's horse manure. You're sending someone off. Or there could be something in the last phase that's needed to be addressed. Stop the game, pause the game, get the decision right. With sendings off, this second yellow, you can't do second yellow. Of course you can. The player's going to be sent off the pitch. It's going to affect the livelihood, well, not the livelihood, but the emotion of thousands of fans in the country. And you're telling me that because you want to keep refereeing integrity, you can't stop a second yellow? Of course you can. It's going to have a massive outcome on titles. It's going to have a massive outcome on fans' emotions, people's mental health, which I'm not saying it has mine, but like, football is that deep rooted in the country. You have to get these decisions right. That's just my opinion. If you want to talk about the Arsenal game, you had the João Pedro inconsistency, you had the ball rolling still, so technically you weren't even delaying the restart because the ball has to come to a stop to be able to be restarted. That doesn't matter. I'm not talking about that right now. What I'm talking about is these referees are so untrained. They're not good enough for the game of football. We're meant to be the best league in the world, and we do not have the best officiating by a long way, by a country mile. The referees are so protected by the media that they're never going to get better. We need to bring it to light, and I just don't understand why I just don't understand why they're protected. Another reason I waited till now to speak about it, the game on Saturday, was because I was too emotional to have an informed opinion on it. I want this channel to be built on informed opinion. So not being one of emotion and actually being able to speak some sense would be key to that. I hope that you agree with me in terms of the refereeing standards in this country. There are certain teams that seem to get away with it, and that's why I do believe there's a lot of bias within refereeing standards. So, for example, Man City usually get the rub of the green. Like, for example, ages ago, Rodri's handball against Everton. You rarely see them get a bad decision against them. They should have had a penalty in the first game of the season given against them. They didn't. I mean, I was at Ipswich, if I'm not mistaken. There's other teams that get the rub of the green. You don't really see Chelsea brought up in any refereeing decisions negatively or positively. Newcastle, recent times, have got a lot of decisions going their way. I think Liverpool are one that's very mixed. You have horrendous decisions against them, and you also have horrendous decisions for them. There are certain teams that I think last season got a negative outcome on a lot of decisions, being Wolverhampton Wanderers, Arsenal, Burnley didn't get the greatest decisions. For example, that Luton game, and they didn't get many decisions going for them across the course of the season. But my point being is that I don't think it's incompetence. I think it's bias. I don't think it's corruption. I think it's bias. I think certain teams are held to a different standard by referees. But I equally believe that they need to be trained to a higher standard. You see it in international tournaments, the refereeing goes up, the performances go up, the games go up. It's not about a high bar. You don't need a high bar. This high bar nonsense is rubbish. You just need to be correct. This high bar thing of, oh, well, we're not going to send him off because of the high bar, or, oh, we're not going to discipline him because... It's absolute nonsense. That's been brought in to protect the referee who makes the wrong decision. If they make the correct decision in terms of when someone's trying to handball it or when someone's trying to kick a player and you know it is them trying to kick a player but the referee hasn't played the game, as they all say, they need that experience, which is why maybe play needs to be in the VAR room. But if they got the right decision every time, you wouldn't need this high bar. Not even every time. You're not even asking for that. It just needs to be 70% of the time. Right now, it's 40% of the time, especially on the contentious issues. The big issues, which are undebatable, are the main ones that need to be clamped down on by VAR. That decision against Brighton, ludicrous. Neither player should be sent off, in my opinion, or both should. You can't sanction one for one action and say, oh, it's because of the letter of the law, but then not sanction the other player to the letter of the law. It doesn't make sense, and that is just the most frustrating thing about English football at the moment. But yeah, hope you have enjoyed. I'm going to be doing a video later this week on the roundup of the first 3 games of the Premier League and what the first 3 games have taught us. Who we think is now going to win the league, who we think isn't. I hope you do enjoy. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.